kopi pun semakin hari semakin marak. Siapa bilang menjadi barista itu susah? Gabung bersama kami di Instiper Coffee Academy untuk mewujudkan cita-cita Anda menjadi barista dan pengusaha kopi yang handal. Maju Instiper, maju petani Indonesia. Iklan ini
Pemanfaatan teknologi di sektor pertanian, perkebunan, dan kehutanan tidak bisa kita hindari. Mengingat semakin banyaknya inovasi dan pengembangan teknologi baik dalam mendukung perencanaan maupun dalam pelaksanaan yang optimal. Salah satu teknologi yang diterapkan di sektor tersebut adalah pemanfaatan drone. Dalam perkembangannya, drone akan sangat dibutuhkan untuk menuju Smart Farming 4.0. Untuk mempersiapkan SDM tersebut, Instiper Drone Academy atau IDA telah berkolaborasi dengan Full Drone Solution atau FDS dalam mengembangkan sektor pendidikan berbasis teknologi, khususnya pada drone pertanian. Maju Instiper, maju petani Indonesia!
Instiper IT Academy merupakan ruang kreativitas pembangunan sumber daya IT pada bidang pertanian 4.0. Kontribusi IT Academy ini diwujudkan dalam bentuk konsultasi, pelatihan, dan jasa, seperti pelatihan pengoperasian alat-alat IT, pelatihan teknis persiapan webinar, kuliah daring, dan pelatihan pembuatan website.
Dengan bergabung di Discourse IT Academy, di sini kami bisa mengasah kemampuanmu sehingga kita siap menghadapi tantangan teknologi di masa depan. Maju Discourse, majukan negeri dengan teknologi.
Ke sini, maju kamu. Biar tidak maju kok, pertama kok. Nanti setelahnya boleh di sini. Maju udah di sini aja. Tidaknya di sini loh yang masa di belakang.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the special event today entitled Student Discourse on Sustainable Landscape Management at Institut Pertanian Stiper Yogyakarta. This event is a special collaboration between Instiper Yogyakarta with Philip University, Germany. We are grateful to have such a great opportunity being together like to share knowledge from one another. Today we also have expert different field of study who will share their research and insight on various topics. My name is Amalia Ferhat. It's a wonderful and precious chance for me to be a master ceremony in this event. So first of all, let's say thanks to the God who has been giving us guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy so we can attend and participate in this event without any obstacle. Ladies and gentlemen, in this lovely moment, I would like to say welcome to the Honorable Rector of Institut Pertanian Stiper Yogyakarta, Dr. Insinyur Harsa Wardana M.Eng, the Vice Rector of Institut Pertanian Stiper Yogyakarta, Dr. Maria Ulfa STPMP, Insinyur Diah Wiwin Uli Parwati, Insinyur Haji Trinugroho Budi Santosa, Insinyur Harsuno Purworto M.Eng, the Honorable Sirat Regional Director for Southeast Asia Island, Dr. Jan Makroda, who attend via Zoom meeting. Good morning, Mr. Roda. And also Prof. Markus Hasler as a lecturer in Philip University at Marburg, Germany. Dr. Insinyur Agus Tiarso as lecturer and senior researcher in Faculty of Forestry Instiper, and all the lecturer and student from Instiper Yogyakarta and Philip University. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed further this morning, I would like to invite you all and to stand up and singing Indonesia National Anthem Indonesia Raya. Everybody are invited to stand up. Please, everybody, have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, now we would like to invite Director of Institut Pertanian Stiper Yogyakarta to give the opening speech for the audience. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Insinyur Harsa Wardana MA.
So everybody, herzlich willkommen hier am Institut Pertanian Stiper Yogyakarta. Ja, Landwirtschaft Institut Stiper. Ja. Dann es ist eine Ehre, uns, Sie und Ihre Studenten, ja, Prof. Michael, wieder hier zu haben. Ja. Das ist sehr schön, denn das ist dritte Programm ja, von Ihnen dann. Ich hoffe, dass diese beiden Universitäten engere Beziehungen bauen zu können nächstes Mal. Und dann ist es immer wichtig und interessant, dass die anderen Länder ja, oder die anderen Leute miteinander zu stehen. Das ist auch wichtig für uns. Sehr offen, dass die Perspektiven sind von anderen Punkt gekommen, ja. Und die asiatische Leute denken anders als die europäische denken, an umgekehrt. Und speziell für die Indonesier, die bestehen aus mehreren Inseln und mehr was kleine Insel und es ist auch ganz natürlich, wenn es gibt tausende regionale und lokale Sprachen, viele ethnische Gruppen und speziell in Yogyakarta, die sprechen auch Java-Sprache und dann die sprechen auch Indonesisch. Hier ist in unserem Institut, ja, das unser Institut besteht aus 3 Fakultäten. Fakultät Landwirtschaft, Fakultät Forstwirtschaft, Fakultät Agrartechnologie. Und dann Kurs über unsere Studenten. Wir haben jetzt 3.500 Studenten und dann jedes Jahr haben wir auch 900 Studenten. Und ich hoffe, dass nochmals das willkommen, herzlich. Dann hoffentlich, dass wir können auch benutzen diese Vortrag oder diese Begegnung, um diese Beziehung enger zu machen. Dankeschön und dann herzlich willkommen in unserem Institut. Dankeschön. Und für Leute, die nicht Deutsch sprechen, Entschuldigung Sie. Ya, saya minta maaf kalau saya langsung bahasa Jerman aja nih sebagai suatu penghormatan kepada tamunya. Oke, vielen Dank. Oke, dan vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Thank you, Dr. Senior Harsawardana MM for the speech in Germany. So now it's time for us to have the main agenda today is presentation from various experts related to topic sustainable landscape management. There will be some speaker to share knowledge and ideas today in the discussion session. So this in this discussion itself will be guided by our moderator today. And now everyone, please welcome Ibu Fariha Wilisiani, PhD.
That's. Thank you for Miss Ama, the time for giving to me and the opportunity. And good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable and the Excellency Prof. Markus and the students from the Univ of Philip German, welcome to Instiper Yogyakarta. Mr. Roda from Sirat that will be joined by online, Rector and Vice Rector of Instiper Yogyakarta, Director of the Master Program of Management Perkebunan and the Dean of the Faculty Agriculture, Forestry and Agricultural Engineering. And to all of the audience who join this event here or by offline, good morning everyone. I am Fariha Wilisiani, will be the moderator for this meeting by the theme Crafting the Future by Sustainability Landscape Management. Maybe the theme is very unique, I think, because now sustainable landscape management become the one of key for the I think for the happiness future. So we make some or more section will be collaborated together, and the sustainability is will be made by our collaboration. So in this discussion, I think this is the very best time for the Instiper and also Univ of Philip Marburg, German to collaborate and maybe not only just for this seminar, but also follow up by more activities in the future. And for this discussion, will delivered by 4 of the speakers. And after that, we will continue by discussion, question and answer. So for the first presentation, will be presented by Prof. Markus from Philip University. So Prof. Markus, time is yours.
Many thanks once again for having us here. Many thanks to Rector Harsa, I say, who actually did his PhD in Germany and at the University of Bonn. Just for all of you who don't know why he speaks German. He spent several years in Germany, which is why he speaks perfect German, actually. Thank you for practicing it with us. Many thanks also to Dr. Agus Setiaso for showing us yesterday around and organizing the field trip and being my direct contact person to this university. I'm very grateful once again for being with you in Yogyakarta. And I also want to say hello to Jean-Marc, my friend from France, who's obviously, I can't see him, but I will hear him very soon, or we will hear him very soon. He's in Jakarta. Hello, Jean-Marc. I don't know if you have my presentation somewhere. I don't know. You have a pointer or something? I can. I know it might be managed anyway. I didn't know that this event today is about sustainability, but I will adjust my talk obviously to some sort of sustainability issues. How can I move the presentation? Oh, okay. No, 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 no. Tidak. It's okay. I want to give a brief overview of what we're doing at Marburg University in terms of rural geography research. Obviously, we have a broad array of topics we're talking about. I will talk about very soon, and I will also give you an impression about where we're from, because I've realized yesterday for a lot of the students from Instipa, it was interesting for them to know where we are from. We're actually from the middle of Germany. As you can see, the dot in the middle, that's where we are. We are from the state of Hesse, which the city you might know from Hesse is Frankfurt, which is... how do I... This is us, Marburg. Never mind. So we are now away from Frankfurt. If you come to Marburg, you will land in Frankfurt, which is the main airport anyway, and you take the train, and it takes 1 hour to come here to see us in Marburg. I mean, it's fine with the microphone, but yeah, never mind. Next, yeah. So about the county Marburg, of Marburg-Biedenkopf. This is, I mean, in Germany, we have different administrative levels. Obviously, we have the national level, we have the regional level, and one regional level we are having is the state, of course, and below the state we have the county. And we are in the county of Marburg-Biedenkopf, and the reason why I'm doing a lot of rural studies or rural geography research is because we are actually located in a very okay. Because we are actually located in a very rural area. So the demand for rural research is actually given in the circumstances we are living in. The largest city in the county is actually the city of Marburg with only 80,000 inhabitants. Put that in comparison to places like Jakarta or even Jogja, where you have more than 1 million, I assume. We are a very small town. Even for German standards, it is a relatively small town, actually. So it is the largest city within the county. We have a lot of agricultural land, we have forests, and we have only 250,000 inhabitants within the county. This is us, the city of Marburg, a very old town, medieval. The strange thing about Marburg is that of the 80,000 people living in Marburg, 25,000 are students. So there is this funny saying, Marburg has not a university, Marburg is a university. So the university is scattered around the city. Unlike Instipa, which is a very specialized university for food engineering or food production engineering or agricultural production and forestry. The University of Marburg has a very wide array of disciplines, including geography. So we are a faculty of geography, which is very unusual. Usually it's an institute, but Marburg is the only faculty of geography within Germany, actually. In the center, at the bottom, a unique thing about Marburg is that we have a national school for the blind. So you see a lot of blind people in Marburg. They are quite predominant. So this is unique as well. And yeah. So my working group on regional development, as I said before, has a specific focus on economic geography and rural geography. I try to combine economic or socioeconomic aspects with rural aspects, rural geography. And I do in particular focus on renewable energies in relation to rural areas, which is biomass production, but also the organization of energy systems. For example, we have the issue of renewable energies, of course, and heating system. In Indonesia, you don't have to do the heating, you have to do the cooling. In Germany, you can't survive without a heating system in your house. So there is actually decentralized heating systems in villages. This is something I'm looking at, bioenergy villages, but also I'm looking very much at food production systems at different geographical or spatial scales. I'm involved in a number of European projects in terms of food production and food production systems. Today, I wanted to give you an overview of my main conceptual approaches, which are the global value chains and global production networks. And I would like to put that into perspective on soybeans, more an aggregate perspective. Usually I work more on a microeconomic level, but this is more macroeconomic, more in relation to on a state or global level, what I'm trying to show you today. Global production, this is what I'm doing now. Global production networks, global value chains. This is a rather graphic citation from a critical geographer, David Harvey, from the 1990s, which I still like very much because it shows a lot. We don't know very much about the products we consume or how production is actually organized. He uses it in the sense of exploitation or whatever. So the grapes that sit upon the supermarket shelves are mute. They don't talk to us. We just buy some food in a supermarket, or we consume some food in a restaurant or whatever. We cannot see the fingerprints of exploitation upon them or tell immediately what part of the world they are from. In the European supermarkets, or like when you buy to the Pasar in Jogja, you don't know where the apples are coming from China, from New Zealand, or from wherever. So this is why I find this value chain concept and approach is very useful for agricultural research, in particular in Europe, where you buy very often very highly processed food. When we go to the supermarket, we buy very often convenient food, which is ready-made, fully packed, and there's a lot of ingredients which if you would know what they are in, you don't want to eat actually. But very often it's difficult to find information about it. But also the organization, how farmers are integrated into value chains, on what scale, for example. It is sometimes very difficult. So it was very kind and very good for us to see yesterday what Dr. Agus organized for us. We saw full value chains in terms of the cayenne oil, for example. We saw the plant, we saw the processing, but we didn't see in the supermarkets the cayenne oil flasks. But we saw how the organization is actually done, or how the spatial scale. This was an idea of regional kind of development, rural development, to put both things together, production as well as processing. We have similar approaches in Germany called short supply chains. When you go to the farmer to buy your apples directly at the farmer, or you buy your milk at the farmer, or some meat. Very often, particularly in urban areas, and Germany is very much urbanized, you don't have the possibility to go to farmers and to see directly the food producer. It's a very anonymous kind of thing to do, to buy food. You go to the supermarket and you have no idea how it actually comes to the supermarket. You just know it's there. When you look at this type of approach, there is in different disciplines concepts. Like I'm a geographer, but obviously I do use a lot of different concepts on different disciplines. I mean, commodity chain is Hopkins and Wallerstein. It's an historian who looked at the colonial periods about global trade, value chain or value-added chain. From Porter is an economist, Fillier, agricultural, commodity circuits, geography, global commodity chain, economic sociology, which is basically, for me, the first looking at rather contemporary global organizations of industrial production. And looking at food, it is more and more industrialized as well, as we all know. And global production networks is a concept developed in geography, which is something which builds a lot on global value chains from Giraffe or global commodity chains, different terminologies and different development stages. I use a lot global production network theory. How does it work, global production networks or global value chains? This is actually for the Marburg University students quite useful for your fieldwork in Bali. That's why I thought I also talk to you about this again, because, but also for the, of course, for the INSIPA students, because it is very important to know this kind of concepts, maybe to analyze them, to use them for how farmers are involved in these value chains. And obviously, you can look at whatever is produced, whatever happens. You have inputs which are transformed. After the transformation, they are distributed and consumed. Consumption doesn't necessarily mean final consumption. We are eating something, for example, but it can be, for example, from a farmer's perspective, a farmer actually buys inputs like seeds, fertilizers, machinery. He puts them on the field, transforms them, harvests them, and then goes to the wholesaler, and then final consumption could be us eating nasi, or it could be somebody going to a retailer or being transformed, or somebody doing something else with it. So it is a whole system which can be, or each kind of production process can be looked at from this perspective, and becomes more complex, of course, when you look at it. You have a production system which is influenced. In the middle, you have your inputs transformed, distributed, consumed. They are actually embedded within different types of inputs, or different types of inputs actually work for every production process. You have research, design, quality control, working the energy inputs. Without energy, you can't kind of produce. You have service inputs, logistics input, logistics you have, and this production system is embedded within a financial system, because if you move goods forward, money is moving backwards. Indonesia might be more or less, or more a cash economy than it is in industrialized economies like Germany, where a lot of the financial transactions are done by banks. Without a bank, you cannot do any business. In Indonesia, farmers probably get money and cash in return for their goods. But a financial system, and I mean, 1999, 1998, financial crisis, Asian crisis, was a banking crisis, basically, affected the whole society. So financial system is very important for any kind of economic action. And then, very important, you have regulation, coordination, control of something. Governments apply or define regulations, how you are allowed to do business. Very often, the agricultural sector is very regulated. You are not allowed to import any type of food, or export sometimes are regulated. If your food is subsidized, for example, then it is cheaper on the national market than on the international market, and then you are not allowed to export it easily, for example. So regulation is something which is affecting all types of economic action. And then if you look at different types of actors, you have firms, you have states, you have civil society organizations, NGOs, what you call them, labor, us, workers. Then you have consumers. They all form kind of a network. This is why they use the terminology production network instead of a chain, because a chain implies a linear kind of concept, but it is actually a diffuse kind of network where things move forwards and backwards. And so this is the main concept I'm using. And for global production networks, you have different analytical kind of dimensions. What you can look at it. You have the value which is generated, created within processes, economic processes, or enhanced through knowledge or industrial or engineering innovations. And then you have capture. Very often the result of regulation, where the value is actually kept at different places. Then you have power relations within different actors. You have firms who exercise power or have very often actor relationships are basis of dissimilar power relations. Somebody is always more powerful than the others. You have institutional power relations. Institutions in the sense of governments, for example, doing laws, and collective action can be done through us as individuals within NGOs or yes. And then you have embeddedness. So I'm trying to apply this kind of concept now towards the soybean. Soybean, you all know that, and you all eat it. It is a plant which has been cultivated since 3000 before Christ in East Asia, for example. Since the 18th century, spread in Europe and America. So it's a relatively new plant, which is produced in Europe or North America or in Americas. And it is a very useful plant. It has a high protein content, and it is especially used or very often used for animal feed, actually, which we'll see very soon. So you cannot eat it raw, as you all know. Tempeh is fermented soybean, and I assume 2% of soybeans which are directly consumed by human beings are mostly consumed within Indonesia, I assume, because globally it is mostly processed. We will see I have some figures later. What is done with soybeans, but you can use it as animal feeds. You can do soya milk, tofu sauce, food ingredients, cooking oil, but then also it is used for biodiesel, cosmetics even, and colors, varnishes for the chemical industry. As I said, 98% is actually processed within industries. Here's some examples how we buy actually in Europe soya as highly processed kind of food products, but then also it is very often we don't even see what it is when we buy soybeans, because a large chunk, 77% of soybeans actually transformed into animal feed. Direct human food is only nearly 20%. 4% is industrial use for, as I said before, cosmetics or biodiesel or Direct human food is tofu, soy milk, oil, this kind of stuff. And Of the animal feed, a large share is actually poultry, chicken, pigs, which you don't have in Indonesia or outside Bali. Aquaculture, also very important. A lot of the salmon we eat in Europe, for example, salmon is a very popular fish. It is the result of aquaculture, Norwegian or cold water aquaculture. And salmon is a predator, and so they eat a lot of soya as well. So most soya we are consuming, in Europe at least, we don't really see that it is soya, because we eat it as indirectly as meat usually. The problem is that you need a lot of more calories, you need a lot of plant-based calories to generate one meat-based calorie. So it's very inefficient to consume soya as in the context of meats. So if you look, before I had a very basic kind of value chain, production chain, if you want to. Inputs are transformed into outputs. Here it is a bit more complex if you really look at specific cases, how soya is actually transformed until the end consumer is actually using it or consuming it. From the agriculture perspective, we have here agricultural lands, machinery, chemical fertilizers, what we all have within agricultural processes, basically. Then it is becoming still planting, growing, harvesting, what farmers do, whatever it is, that's how it is. And then storage, processing, then it becomes more specific. The more processed raw materials are, the more complex and the more specific become value chains. Here we have the oil seed crusher, which is basically the first step of the further processing, and then becomes more specific. Animal feed production, food processor for tempeh or for tau. Then you have biodiesel and vegetable oil production. And then you have, goes even further until final consumption. Soybean has very specific production contexts. Ideal consumption, it is produced in a lot of in many parts of the world. It is produced in East Asia, in India, in Europe to a lesser extent, but mainly in North America and Latin America. The ideal growing conditions are temperatures between 25 and 35 degrees. Germination happens at a minimum temperature of 10 degrees soil temperature. Growth time between 100 and 140 days. So you need to have warm summers in the regions. If it's not or you need to have a good climate. And it has certain water requirements. Although it has a certain tolerance for dry periods. The main production areas, as I said, are North America, in particular the US, Latin America, Brazil in particular, Argentina, and to a lesser extent Paraguay, as well as India and China. China, as we will see, is the main consumption country. Here we go, global demands, production and trades. So Brazil has the highest production output, followed by the US. 2/3 of the global production is actually generated within these two countries, followed by Argentina to some degree, China, India, as I said. which is rather striking is the global demand for soybeans has increased drastically. It has increased from the 1960s, 70s until today manifold, from less than 50 million tons to 200 or 300, I can't see figures, 350 million tons or 350 million tons. So this is striking. And as we can see here, the growth drivers are in particular meat consumption. It's not us as human beings eating more and more tau and soya milk in Germany or in Indonesia. It is food consumption in general, meat consumption in particular. And as you can see, meat supply per person in different countries is a very important indicator why the soybean production, soybean consumption has increased drastically. The US has the largest and highest meat consumption per person, followed by European countries, although relatively stable. But countries like South Korea and China in particular have had a massive growth in meat consumption because meat is very often correlated or associated with luxury goods, and socioeconomic development very often correlates with increased meat consumption. Here we have a picture of the correlation between meat consumption and gross domestic product in relation per capita. You can see that I use this one. Okay. The US has the highest meat consumption and also a relatively high GDP per capita. It is the largest economy globally. And you can see that China also, it doesn't work anymore. China also has a middle income, is a more middle income country. What is striking is that India, for example, has still a relatively low consumption per meat consumption per capita, and also Indonesia. The reasons you might know better than I do, but India has a low meat consumption per capita because a lot of people are vegetarians there. Although it's the second largest population globally, it has a large number of vegetarians because of religious reasons. But China, obviously the largest country in terms of population globally, if they have an increase in meat consumption per person, per capita, then it has a strong impact on food production systems. Doesn't, no. Huh? Ah, here we go. Okay, here we see the largest producers of soya, as I said, Brazil and the US have combined 2/3 of global production of soybeans, followed by Argentina and China as well. In terms of consumption, China and the US account for half of soybean consumption, followed by Brazil as well as Argentina. And this is how global trade looks like. The US and Brazil have a very strong trade relation with China. Very strong concentration of the flow of goods. China purchases of 65% of all soybeans traded globally. 31% of the US production is going to China, as well as 43% of production from Brazil is going to China. Argentina also exports a large chunk of their production to China. Other parts of Asia are also delivered from the US and Brazil. I remember I've seen a sack of US soybeans in the outskirts of Yogyakarta for the production of tempeh. I assume a large part of tempeh is produced actually from imported soybeans. China is the largest growth market for soybeans on a global scale. As I said, 65% of global trade is going to China. This is largely the result of trade regulations on different scales and is impacted still by different types of regulation. China joined the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization, and a very strong promoter of free trade, so no regulations. Before 2001, there were strong regulations in place for imports to China. These were actually made redundant in 2001. This is why lots of soybean could be imported to China. Chinese soybean imports grew from 10 million to 88 million within around 20 years, which is 9 times, which is a lot. This, of course, coincides with economic development in China as well. One particular issue is how these soybeans are imported. They are imported mostly as raw soybeans, not processed. The processing is done in China. This is a kind of a protective measure to Chinese agribusinesses. Producing soya sauce, for example, soya oil, and other things. So here we can see the regulation or the institutional power of a global production network is influenced to a strong degree by rules and regulation, how it is organized. So it's cheaper for importers to China to import the raw material than the final product, because that means value is captured within China for final soya products. What is also striking is, although the demand for soybeans has increased strongly in China, domestic production, although China is also a producer of soybeans, has been relatively flat. So there was no incentive to produce any more soybeans. Here we go. This is the production structures of the US for soybeans. The agricultural sector is in the US still a very big actor, or a big sector. 5% sounds relatively low, but it is a large share for industrialized economy. Germany has a share of agriculture in the gross domestic product of less than 1%. In US, agriculture is an issue of the central plains, not at the coasts, not in the mountain area, and it is the central plains. It's flat. It is relatively easy to mechanize agriculture, and as we in Europe at least know, agriculture is very much mechanized and very capital intensive, and it's only kind of competitive if you invest in a lot of machinery. Indonesia is transforming as well, as we can observe the last 10, 15 years from water buffaloes to harvesters and small tractors, but obviously not like in Europe or the US. 1 trillion US dollars is generated through agricultural produce, which is a huge number. Soybean comes at the second place after corn, followed by wheat, sorghum. 100 million tons is produced every year, roughly. This is how it looks like. As you can see, as I say, capital intensive. One of these harvesters costs more than $500,000 US dollars or euros. So agriculture in Europe is very capital intensive. Tractors, 200,000 euros or more easily. So you need to have huge fields and convenient topographies to use this type of machinery. Here we have the most successful president of the US. He actually influenced as well the way global trade is on soybeans has been influenced. He had this great idea of looking at the trade structures of the US with Europe, Germany, and China, and he realized the US has a very strong trade deficit, a large trade deficit with China. So he put in a lot of tariffs and import structures for China, which were negative. China retaliated by starting a kind of trade war and also put on reciprocal trade barriers for goods which are produced in areas where Trump was voted heavily. For example, in the mid-states and Midwest, agricultural products, bourbon whiskey, and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. So within a very short period of time, soybeans from the US were not competitive anymore or could not be imported to China anymore. So here again, another example of the influence of trade regulations on global value chains, on institutional power. The red column here is Chinese exports or imports, or no, sorry, the share of China of the exports from the US. Within very few months, the share of Chinese exports dropped basically to zero. From October 2017 to, can't see the, it dropped to zero and was basically substituted by Brazil. So the global trade structures were very much influenced and were reorganized by, as you can see, by different import structures to the US, to China. Here we see at the bottom, the blue line is the exports from the US, and the red line are the exports from Brazil to China. Looking at the Brazilian case, you can see that by satisfying the global demand, in particular of Chinese consumers, Brazil increased drastically their production. And this was done mainly by increasing production by agricultural lands, not by getting a more productive harvest or production method. As we can see, the yield or the output per hectare was relatively stable. The increase was mainly done by getting more arable lands in certain areas of Brazil, which is mainly in the Mato Grosso region. So it's not the Amazon basin, it is a savanna region here. But again, it was primary area was transformed in agricultural lands. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but the production structures in in Brazil are very much organized, or very much big companies running this agribusiness. As you can see here, I mean, these harvesters, as I said, 500,000 up to 1 million. We see millions of equipment here on this field, and it only makes economic sense if you actually use them on large areas. The average farm size in Brazil is between 3,000 and 6,000 hectares. So this tells a lot about, I don't know how much the average area in Indonesia is, but in Germany it's around 60 hectares. It's family-based agriculture in Germany, same family-based agriculture in Indonesia, I assume. In Brazil, it is very much large companies operating on large fields. Here we have a comparison of the value creation, if you want to, the input costs, operating expenses. Which is striking is that China has a relatively high labor costs and relatively little machinery equipment costs, because obviously it's more manual labor used there, and less equipment, because it is very often smallholders probably as well as smaller fields being operated on. This is a study done by in the US. So the price structure, this also explains a bit why Brazil is feeds more into the in the Chinese market. It's slightly bigger, cheaper than the US. $299 per metric ton. The US $341 per metric ton. So this is really different production inputs put in correlation. This is a good study about really how value is created and how actually the how you can put in different inputs to get a similar result. And the Chinese costs are much higher than those in the US and Brazil, because smaller farms and less industrialized. This is probably why most of it is imported. So to summarize it, important driver of global demand and global production organization is the Chinese demand for meat. Then it is high capital and land intensive, low technology intensity. However, you need big machinery, of course, and standardizable. It has a lot of impacts in the sense of that you have monocultures. You use a lot of in Brazil, there's a lot of biotechnology involved in the sense of genetically modified seeds and the inputs of glyphosate, for example. What you need when you have the fields like we saw yesterday with, if you know how it works, these genetically modified soya plants, for example, they are resistant to this to glyphosate. So glyphosate kills everything apart from the soya plant. So this is how this this biotechnology works. So monoculture and the impact of government regulation on production and trade regimes is quite obvious. Chinese deregulated in early on with the WTO, their import regime, and also we see how Donald Trump's clever policies actually influenced how his voters were affected by it. Okay, this is all I can say. It is obviously a less sustainable food regime we are having here. But it is a kind of an example how you can analyze global production networks in the food sector. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Professor Marcus with this nice presentation, and I make the little summarize. This is about the global production network from the input, transformation, and consumption, especially for the soybean commodity as the miracle fruits. It's very interesting. So we will continue for the next presenter. Will be delivered by Dr. Agus. Silsa, time is yours. With the theme of the coffee from the community to press.
Thank you very much, Dr. Papa. Very good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Guten Morgen, Sugeng Injang. I intentionally put my picture over there so that you can see how the expression of enjoying a cup of coffee. It should be somebody more specializing in coffee in this institute, but Ibu Dina is currently still at the doctoral studies abroad, and she cannot be made available today. So I took her position to tell you something about coffee and with my style. So in Indonesia, coffee is really coming from the communities. And on the other side, that side at the back, we have a coffee shop. Then you can enjoy coffee there with something elegant, classy. Not everybody can afford to drink cappuccino, espresso, double espresso, latte coffee. Okay, I should use this, yeah. Okay, so I start with the journey of coffee. Coffee made a long travelatory, and let's see. Yeah. I prefer to stand up here rather than using electronic toothing. Apa bahasa Inggrisnya toothing? Pointers. This is the plantations. 90% of coffee plantations in Indonesia is by the communities. So this is how the communities harvest. Only red fruit to be harvested. So red pickup. Then assortment. First assortment. Then peeling. Losing the skin of the coffee seeds. Fermentation. And then bleaching, meaning this is again the first bleaching. They put a lot of water over there, and then drying. That's the community side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. It's not simple one. From the mill side, starting getting the dried beans from the community. They do the hulling. Hulling means um, leaving out uh, the waste at the bottom of coffee bean. Cooling, then re-drying to stabilize the moisture content. Then mills assortment, the second assortment, they have grading based on the diameter of the coffee bean. And then Kundar, uh, bean packaging. Um, bean packaging in terms of in the form of brackets, and then roasting. Then goes either this goes to the coffee shops, cafe, or from this to go to the coffee shop. So this is the world first class coffee, meaning that they have to treat and assort the coffee bean very, very carefully. That's the mill side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another 7 steps. Then consumer side, your side. Starting with the roasting. Like when you order a steak, rare, medium, well done. Make sure that you will select this or that. This one, it's good for you to intensify your diet if you do not want to increase your weight, then you select that. Do not select this. This is only good if you have a stomach ache or diarrhea. So you have to select this one and that one. And then goes to grinding. Make sure that you have the most preferable grinding. This is for coffee press or press. This is for pour over. This is coffee brewed. You can have hot brewing or cold brewing, and that is espresso. Then, how to prepare the coffee in your cup? You need to tell to the coffee maker, the barista, that you want sweet, sour, salty, and pahit? Bitter. So you need to ask your tongue which part of your tongue will be used by you to enjoy the coffee. And you can select various tastes over there. In Indonesia, becoming a barista, you will need to be competent in preparing at least 38 recipes. Then, here it comes to be enjoyed. So, 1, 2, 3. From consumer side, our side, we need 3 steps to do that. Otherwise, we only drink coffee as we drink water. No enjoy. It's not quite enjoyable. So, following the presentation of Dr. Marcus, Professor Marcus, I would like next to have a discussion on value chain of coffee. The chain of custody from the forest to the first processing to the maintaining, collecting, processing, trading, and consumers. We feel that are quite complicated. Price and margin. Coffee farmers, they got the margin €3 per kilogram. Then puller collecting coffee, raw coffee from the farmers. Uh, they the price is 5 at the puller, but the puller take €2 per kilo. Without planting coffee, they got €2. And middlemen, intermediate trading, they got €2 per kilogram. Males, the primary males company, they buy coffee at €9 per kilogram, and they take €2 per kilogram. And the trader roasted bean, they buy 11 kilograms from the company, and they get €4 per kilogram. You see that this only trading is just using your Android. You get €4 per kilogram. The farmers, after 3 years working with the land, working hard, got only €3. You can buy also roasted and grind it. The same, they got 4 kilograms. So then coffee drinkers, you have to pay here or in Indonesia, this is Arabica coffee for €1 per cup, not per kilogram. So when this group when this group consumes coffee and you consume 1 kilogram, then you have to pay €50 all in all per kilogram. 50. This is 11. This is at the end consumer, the very end consumers, they have to pay 50 euros per kilogram. I would like to discuss the value chain in terms of value chain analysis for development. That means sustainability at the landscape level. Composing of economic, social, and environmental. In economic value chains, crop estates contribute 3.27% of total PDB at the national level and 25.7% to agriculture sector. Coffee contributes to 60% of crop estate contribution. So it's quite significant. From the starting point, we know that the farmers contribute a lot to the development of this nation. National coffee consumption, 40 million cups a day. When you pay €1 per cup, then the economic transaction of coffee in Indonesia is €40 million per day. This is very rare to be told to the public. This is why Indonesia, during the pandemic till now, the economic is relatively resilient to the economic crisis. One of the reasons is because people are not stopping drinking coffee. Many times beyond our imagination that the efforts of the communities ending up with the economic transaction as much as 40 million euro per day. This is based on Arabica. On the average, it might be half of it, so 20 million euro per day. Still a big number to be considered. The production is more than 7 million tons. And multiplier effects, coffee has a backward and forward linkages. The backward multiplier effect, including business on fertilizers, herbicides, insecticides, electrics, water, construction, transportation, communication, governance, social services, 10 other economic activities is needed before coffee is produced the uh, on the community land. 10 economic activities involving 120 million euros in 2019. Forward linkages, after coffee has been sold, they will be followed by mining industry, medicine, pulp and paper, trade, downstream industry, hotel, restaurants, transportation, communications, services, 11 other segments of economic activities is encouraged by coffee. And the total impacts of coffee linked to forward linkages is 900 million per year. The data is coming from our statistical office based on the input-output analysis. With respect to export, we do have performance as much as 872 million in 2019, up and down. In other aspect, social aspect, we have 1.3 million coffee farmers and 160,000 of farm workers. I got a question yesterday about the role of women. You can see undebatable facts that in the processing industry, women are predominating. All of them are women. There are kind of jobs in coffee industry that cannot be performed by men with sufficient accuracy and with sufficient productivity. The social value chain, seedlings, land preparation, planting, maintenance, harvesting are carried out by family members. So livelihood is there. They hire external workers when harvest has to be practiced because they will be lacking of manpower. So they invite external harvest. With respect to plantation ownership, 98.6% are smallholders, communities. Only 0.8% state-owned estate, 0.6% owned by private. So the very upstream segment of the coffee economy belongs to communities. Belongs to communities. The other one of a social aspect, tenure conflicts occurred when plantation entered forest areas. In this case, forest management unit roles are important. FFU managers will address the issue. FFU usually in Indonesia drive the issue of conflict towards collaborative management and business, like we see with respect to kayu put oil yesterday. Poverty level is lower than non-coffee farming schemes. Coffee farmers are in better livelihood condition. In downstream industry, workers get higher salaries in coffee industry rather than other commodity, similar commodity industry. Get more money. Environmental value change. However, coffee in Indonesia has not released from the issue of forest fire, deforestation, reducing biodiversity, and watershed quality. We do have an emission level problem with coffee, but with respect to conservation, there are jungle coffee that been established that have not significantly affect the biodiversity, wildlife species conservation, and watershed conservation. This is the proof. At Aceh, we have orangutan cafe. You can browse, you can do googling on orangutan coffee. Orangutan coffee is coffee segment industry that is almost 30 to 40% of the income from the coffee, the total income, is being devoted to orangutan conservation at Aceh. And this is the community are being supervised, guided by militant NGO. With respect to environmental value chains, coffee in Indonesia has started to enter the certification schemes. We are not arriving at the sufficient number, but only close to 50,000 hectares of coffee plantation have already been certified according to one or several standards. We have SCOPY, UTC certified, organic certification, GAP, HACCP, Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade certification, and others. The performance is still low. 50,000 tons out of 7 million tons. Why? Because with respect to coffee, direct contact between buyer and producers usually enduring effects on compliance to certification programs. They just do a very conventional transaction. So, our recommendation here with that coffee in multi-business forestry-based sustainable landscape is very viable, very possible, very feasible, and very safe towards the sustainable landscape in terms of economic, in terms of social, in terms of environmental. The second, it is more incentive to be awarded to smallholder coffee. In fact, the main contributors in production, social, and environmental aspect and value chain is the community. It's the community. But they get the least in terms of income. Biggest contributor the least income. It's not fair to me. That's why we need partnership along the supply chain to give capacity building to the community so that it can be equal joint venture between the communities and the modern industry. One of the scheme is community cooperatives to be put in higher level by capacity building so that they are ready to be shareholders of modern industry. We recommended also a trading house mechanisms at national and provincial levels. There are a couple of times when in the national FMU meetings attended by 1,000 people, we have coffee festivals that is produced, that is encouraged by FMUs. And this is very good to promote coffee at national level. Next is coffee branding. Coffee is not just a drink. Coffee is connected to the specific taste, classy taste. So from the community to be something classy on our tongue. This is the last slide. So coffee, COFFE, creative, original, fascinating, flavorful, enlightening, energizer. So coffee is energizer that makes you more creative, and it is original, fascinating, it is flavorful, and enlightening. Producing sparks in your brain. Coffee producing sparks in your brain. In Indonesia, kopi, KOPI, ketika T, otak, brain, perlu, need for inspiration. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the nice presentation and the unique name of coffee in English and Indonesian definition. Where is coffee? Okay, after that. Thank you very much, Dr. Agus, still from Instiver. And yeah, it is not complete. If the student from Germany, after this meeting, you can also order the coffee from the Instiver coffee shop. Yeah. For complete our discussion today. So we let in continue for the next presentation. The third presentation will be delivered by Dr. Hassa Wardana, Director of Institute Yogyakarta, with the theme of palm oil industry in Indonesia. So time is yours.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, Herr Professor Markus, guten Tag, und dann I want to talk about very critical topics, palm oil, or oil palm. This is our, how we can say that, a place for the Indonesian country, because no other country can grow palm oil or oil palm. Just Malaysia and some of the small country in Colombia, South America. and in Africa it's not well developed. So I think we are the biggest palm oil producer in the world, and almost 50% of the food contains palm oil. But I don't want to go to this topic on economical or social or regarding the environmental, but I want to talk about the energy, renewable energy, biomass energy, role in carbon sink and climate change, klimaumwandlung. On next, okay. I want to talk in this day today, carbon sink, climate change, conversion technology in biomass, and biogas energy from biomass, biomass energy in use, smallholder in oil palm business and industry, and conclusion. So my presentation will be divided into two stages. One is about the energy that used in the industry, and the second I will show you how do we help the farmer to understand the oil palms industry, and how do they have to comply with the standard, like at SPO roundtable, sustainable oil standard that we must comply when we want to sell this product to other countries like China, Europe, or other countries like Australia, or India, China, then I think. This is the procession of our agriculture crops. So I will go. This is, I just want to talk the upstream. Only the upstream, then I want to talk about the industry, the energy. So this is the upstream value chain in the palm oil palm. This is begin from the land preparation, then followed by infrastructure, planting, and before planting, there are some activities to plant the planting material that we call pre-nursery and nursery. And this is maintenance, harvesting, evacuating, transporting, and food processing. I want to talk his point. This is now is going to the intensive industry. This is all the equipment that used by this industry, from the land preparation up to the food processing. But I want to concentrate on this seminar on food processing that use the biomass energy as a energy. Biomass energy, we can say that from the agriculture, food grain, bagasse, forest, municipal energy, and like soybean, also canola, and biological animal waste, aquatic species, vegetable waste. And biomass constituent that we can convert into the energy is lignin. 15 up to 55 of the biomass constituent can be converted into energy. This is very high energy content that tropical plants are rich in lignin. So there are three at least, maybe more. Direct combustion means that now you use in this industry by direct burning into the boiler. And the second is thermochemical conversion that we call it pyrolysis. And the third is biochemical conversion through anaerobic digestion, but in the industry scale, not in the small scale. This is the composition of palm plantation and all palm products. Yeah. Just take, for example, plantation 6 million hectare. Now we have a total in Indonesia 16 million hectare. And 43% gehört zum kleinen Bauern, belongs to the smallholder, 43%. And the rest are owned by the government and private. But private has more than the government. The government only 1 to 2%. So this is why there's a very big industry. And then when you can see this, we only get 20% of the oil from the plant. Compared to other oil plant, vegetable oil, per hectare, the productivity of the palm oil is grosser. And we can say that the economical Indonesians is supported mainly by this palm oil, of oil palm. So we can see that there are so many biomass that we can use as energy. To be frank, that if you use the fossil fuel energy, you can get the profit. They use the biomass for running the mill, for the running operation from the running factory. So once you use the fossil oil, then you're gonna get the profit. Yeah. This is the fresh fruitlet. Yeah. This is one fruitlet. Contains, you can say that this mesocarp, and inside the kernel and cell. So we use this mesocarp fiber to energize the boiler. So we put just drying and we put in the boiler. So this is the most economical ways to get the energy in this palm oil industry. So there is no chance for us to use the fossil fuel energy. Yeah. And this is also the cell. You can also put as a fuel, but the price is for the cell is going up. Then we can sell as a material for the active carbon. This is the material balance. Yeah, so if you have 100% fresh fruit bunch, so if 30% fruitlet, 65% empathy bunch, 25%, and in the end, pure oil we can get 23.5, and plumes 80%, kernel 5.3%, and cell 5.75%. Fiber 12% goes to the boiler, direct burning. Direct combustion burning, we can use fiber or the cell, then the boiler generate or turn the alternative to generate electrical power that can be used to meet the demand of the processing purposes, housing, grid connection, and other sets, such as for electrical vehicle. In year 2016, I went to the Korean, and then they want to export this electrical vehicle to Indonesia, but because of some problem, still we cannot realize that they want to use this. The people in the plantation can use this as a transportation vehicle. This is electrical vehicle, fully energized or run by battery. And this is quite good, this vehicle, and I think from the future, and I think also the technology of the electric vehicle is growing, it's getting mature, and I think in the next 2 to 5 years, we can use this vehicle for our purposes. This is the design. There is a single motor type and double motor type. The objective of the methane capture: produce renewable energy for in-house use, replace fossil fuel for generating steam and electricity, because this is a must. Without that, we cannot get the profit. This is really, I was in industry for 8 years. Nah, when Ihwa wieder curug in Indonesia in 2000, I arbeided in the palm oil industry for 8 years. Deswegen, dass I know well this industry. And reduce greenhouse gas emission. Produce electricity for grid connection. The objective of biogas capture from palm oil effluents, palm oil mill effluents, is to increase revenue, what I said already, and the second, reduce carbon footprint. Just for example, so if we have the inlet parameter mill capacity ton per hour means that per hour we can process 60-ton buns. And the palm oil mill effluent generation, we can get per day 720 cubic meter per day. And chemical oxide demand is so much, and biogas generation so much. So per hour we can get 850 cubic meter. And biogas composition is like this. Methane 60 up to 70, carbon dioxide 30 up to 40, hydrogen sulfide 0.2 up to 0.3. There are two ways to use the biogas. On-site, direct use as direct fuel disbursement, or you use after desulfurization, or outside, so we can, after purification, we can use it for vehicle as a liquid gas. But still, the price is quite high. This is why that the people don't go to that direction, but still waiting for the better technology for that. And biogas palm oil mill, there are two types of the biogas system, cover legend and tank. This is the methane capture to reduce the GHG, and this is part of the renewable energy for the Indonesian. Yeah. This palm oil, then we have a POME, palm oil mill effluent. So then it goes to the methane capture, we get biogas. If the production is excessive, we just make it flare, just burning. And when we have a system for gas engine, we can put this into gas engine purely, entirely 100% from the biogas. Yeah. And we can also use this biogas for steam boiler. But the heat value as compared to the fiber is much less. This is why that people don't want or don't prefer to use this as a boiler feeding material. Yeah. And there are also second application for that. So we can put in a facultative pond, and then after certain periods, by measuring COD and biological oxide demand, we can put as a fertilizer land application. This is tank system. I don't want to go into detail. There are two, yeah. But the problem with the tank system that after years, the tank will be going corroded. This is very practical, and the price is less than the lagoon system, the open system. This is the open system. This is we must to cool first in the cooling cover, and then go to the biodigester. This is a lagoon type cover legend, and the biogas to be flared or go to the biogas engine. And we can generate electricity from that by coupling this biogas engine with the alternator. This is one of the biogas project during my stay in industry. The cover lagoon in operation since October 2011, use capacity was 1.2 megawatt. Electric biogas engine to meet the electrical demand of kernel casting plant. There are two, normally, although some of the company just has one factory for processing the material become the crude palm oil. But there are some company that also processing the kernel. And the kernel crushing plant that also result in oil kernel. The price is much higher than the CPO because they normally use as in cosmetic, use in medical. Because of what the chain of C, is shorter than CPO. Then this project is regulated as a Clean Development Mechanism, UN scheme, project at UN Framework Convention on Carbon Credit. This is the biogas project that we apply in our company in that time. And this is the biogas plant. This is the biogas system trying to put the biogas into the boiler, but this will not succeed because the heat value is much lower than the fiber. This is why then this is not popular. Then people don't want to use as a fuel in boiler, because a boiler is a very important machine in the palm oil, because it will generate electricity for the whole process. No fossil fuel. The whole process will be run by boiler that convert the alternator power into electrical. And thus we can say that without the biogas, we cannot produce the kernel oil palm, oil palm kernel. This is the saving diesel fuel. If we use biogas, we can save. Without biogas, 100% we use the fuel, diesel fuel, but with the biogas, we can just use 20%. But the problem with the biogas plant is the investment cost is high. Almost half of the price of the factory. This is why that not every company want to build this biogas plant. Very high. But you can see that what I said, that the heating value is much lower than the fiber itself or the cell itself. And when you took a look at the greenhouse emission reduction, 30 days of the methane gas, so we can methane gas emission we can reduce up to 38.4%. When we put in 70 days, we can reduce up to 36, because of the methane is one of the several gases that must be controlled to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. This is the potential development of the biogas methane, but still debatable because the production for other uses is still expensive. Because if you want to compress the biogas, you need a very high pressure. Very high pressure. Then it's not economical, it's not feasible. This is the landfill gas. Actually, talking about the landfill in Yogyakarta, you can find one of the facility in Yogyakarta that use biogas by using this principle. Maybe next time, if you are interested in this technology, you can visit as a part of your visit in Yogyakarta. It's not far from here. You know that Yogyakarta is a very small city, then maybe only 1 hour drive from here. You can see this facility. It's very interesting because they are collecting the waste from the market and the surrounding and put in the unit. Then they get the methane from this piling. This is the system. This is almost the same, but this project is done. Carrier and Pontianak, Indonesia, by joint partnership in Japan and Indonesia. This is well installation. Test flaring system overview. This is always that flaring because we cannot use all the biogas produced for the gas engine. Okay, then we go to pyrolysis. The pyrolysis or gasification, you know that we can produce more hydrogen than CO2. This is rich energy, the hydrogen. 20% hydrogen, CO2 18%. So we reduce. We have updraft, downdraft, fluid despite, intent flow, state pyrolysis. So fast, yeah, this is updraft, downdraft, and we have also, once I have also built the system. This is for the small scale food processing industry. Means that we converted the carbon into the hydrogen. Normally what the people did now is just burning direct, for heating the process, for heating the water, etc. Fluid bed capacitor, yeah, I think this is co-fire used also in the industry. They use both biofuel, both diesel oil and synthetic gas. So at almost 50% mixture, 50% of the synthetic gas produced by the system and 50% the diesel oil. This is the working principle. This is the normal diesel engine. So no need to modify this engine. Just put some in advance, some filter, to filter the synthetic gas that produced by the system. Some of the company also use this for the places that far away from the mill, because you can not get the electricity from the mill when, because you know that the palm oil industry, one factory cover 10,000 hectare, one factory. So the worker that is living, that must be also given the electricity by using this system. Some of the companies still use the fossil fuel, diesel oil. Yeah. Okay, this is the real photo of the system, and this is the pyrolysis by the electric battery discharge. So we try to break down the methane, and we can get more. We can say that we can use this black oil, black fluid to be fuel. Some of the German scientists, they use Fischer-Tropsch, but Fischer-Tropsch process is very, very costly because the catalyst must be made from the radioactive elements. This is one of the research that I also did some years ago. This is the bio oil. So this is half ton, system half ton, and we can produce the black oil. And we can also direct burning when we want to use the heat for some purposes. This is the electrical system that use. This is the rice gas stove that in the household use, but I think people doesn't want to do this because it's very complex to prepare, and I think people want to be more direct use without disturbing with many work. Okay, then I want to introduce our system. What we call it, sawit kita, centering smallholder with information tech. This is the problem dan bin auch early sagen dan es gibt noch Probleme mit dem oil palm industry, besonders in kleine Bauern und kleine Unternehmen. Deswegen, dass wir wollen auch diese Unternehmen und die Bauern helfen. Ja. Oke, dan please bisa dipamerkan, ya, bisa dianukan. Sudah, bisa. Ya. The user of the system, they can access the knowledge and of about the how they do the plantation based on GAP, good agri practices, good manufacturing practices, good handling practices. The system is in our university. If you are interested in diving into this problem, then welcome. There are 2,600 active users divided into 23 provinces. And this is our product still in Indonesia, of course, not in Germany. Yeah. This is all the material that supplied by us to be available for the small farmer. Yeah. This is gratis. Yeah. No need to pay. Yeah. And this system is running almost 2 years. Yeah. And 2 years and still be developed. And why I told to you, because I know that oil palm is still becoming the very debatable subject in Europe and other countries. Yeah. The problem with the farmer, I say that 43% belongs to the farmer. So mostly they are not well educated, and even the worker of the company is also not well educated because of what? Because the area of the plantation is remote, far away from the city. Not many people don't want to work in that so harsh conditions. So if you have experience in a plantation, you can feel that it's no fun here to live there. It's very hard. Yeah. Then sometimes you cannot use handphone. Yeah. There's a problem here. We cannot use telecommunication devices. Yeah. This is so in 2020, one of our colleagues go to Schiphol in Netherlands to present this our product, and we get 3 best ideas in European Oil Palm Forum. You want to show something, Pak Eric? So please, yeah.
Maybe I can add a little bit information about this product. Talking about the supply chain management, Mr. Harsa say in oil palm, especially in smallholder plantation, there is no extension services provided by government or other people to provide the farmer how to manage their plantation according to good agriculture practices. So that we build this application. In this application, there are several product to provide the farmer how to manage their plantation according to good agriculture practices. So when they can manage their plantation more sustainable way, we hope someday this farmer, maybe about 4 million farmer in Indonesia in oil palm industry, they can receive RSPO certificate. So the product then can be export in country that need the RSPO standard to be implemented in the oil palm plantation. That is our idea. Today, this app already used by about 2,600 farmer across the Indonesia, and we continue to develop this app so more farmer can be use oil palm plantation is oil palm produce is there is no internet signal, so the the farmer cannot use their handphone to access this online. So this is we develop so they can use in on offline. That Mr. Hasa, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Eric. Okay, I think this is still developed. We are still developing the system, and I think this industry as the get concurrence, get from the soya beans, from other like sunflower oil. But still, that we cannot avoid one of your students ask us, yeah, why you don't replace with other plants. Yeah? There's no choice because like soya bean is originally not from Indonesia. This is why this is, although the palm oil is not originally from Indonesia, this is from Africa, but they can grow very well in our country. This is not original from Indonesia. But this is, if you ask me that why you don't replace with other plants, there is no chance to replace with other plants because this is very productive. And this is a very long years plant. So you can once planted, you planted that you once is planted and then up to 25 years you can harvest. When you put the fertilizer regularly, this is very effective plant. This is why that what we do now, the government is try to limit, yeah, try to put the intensive farming, intensive agriculture instead of extensification. Yeah, they try to confine and they try to put some restriction for the people or for the company to open more land. Of course, there are still problems. Escape no problema. Escape no problema. Then this is ser umfangreiche Thema. So I just talk about the energy itself. But if your next coming, you want to us to give some information about certain topics, we can provide it. Yeah, I didn't touch about the in the field. I didn't touch on the social, economical aspect of this. And this is very interesting because of what? Because the perspective on the people, yeah, in the Europe and the Asian is different. It's niet gelijk. Ja. We denken, die Leute denken anders en sie denken auch anders. Das ist sehr interessant. Very interesting. Okay, thank you. And
just something for the German students as well. I know the Indonesian students are probably very much in favor of palm oil plantations. And in Germany, it's very, very controversial, actually. And in Europe, you have to actually state on any product which contains palm oil that it has palm oil inside. If I say the GIZ, you might know what it is. It's a German development agency, National Development Agency. Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, die im Prinzip die im Prinzip die nationale Entwicklungsstrategien umsetzt aus Deutschland heraus und mit deutschen Steuergeldern. And this organization is very much has a very balanced view on it and is actually indeed in favor of palm oil, which is And I once heard a presentation by the GIZ, and they were arguing that 40 million people of the Indonesian population were put out of poverty because of palm oil. So for us, we have a very distinct perspective on ecological aspects, but of course, the socioeconomy of palm oil in Indonesia, as Harsu said, Hausa said about the smallholders. You can have a very good life with a small piece of land using palm oil or producing palm oil. And palm oil, the oil palm is the most productive oil plant in relation to sunflower or rapeseed, for example. So you have the highest per hectare yields in relation to to other plants. But of course, there's more to it, but this is also perspective. And being in Indonesia, I think most of the students here actually study how to be a good palm oil farmer. So being here to get a different perspective, that's how it is. Otherwise, we should stay at home. Okay, thank you.
Deswegen habe ich dieses Thema gebracht. Ich weiß, dass das problematisch ist. Ich war ja in Europa so 5 Jahre und ich weiß ja, wie Sie denken. Ja. Okay, danke schön. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Okay. Thank you very much for Dr. Hasan Wardana for the good presentation. This is the complete package information, I think, about the palm oil in Indonesia, about the technology and the smallholder farmers, especially about the special application named or called Sawit Kita that developed by Institute Jakarta. And I think it's very interesting. Will be delivered in the discussion session. So we will continue for the last presentation that will be delivered by Dr. Jean-Marc Roda from SIRA. So I must check first because the Dr. Roda joined by online. Good morning, hello. Dr. Roda, is this clear? For the voice and maybe video. This is okay?
I am okay. If you hear me, do you hear me correctly?
Yes.
Perfect. So I will try to share my presentation.
Okay.
Perfect. You should have it now.
Okay, this is clearly in here.
Excellent.
Okay, so Dr. Roda, time is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Makasih. Dankeschön. I understand that we have a trilingual audience today. So here I'm going to talk a little bit about a bit of how to understand circular economy. I give implication for forestry and wood products mainly, but also for palm oil industry. You will see. So I did change a little bit the content. So the idea is to understand how the circular economy is impacting our life and how it can work regarding to natural resources in general. So a bit of a critical approach of the idea of circular economy. I would like you to compare here 3 different views or representations of what is circular economy according to 3 countries. It's very fascinating. You see that in Netherlands, circular economy is presented mostly after the view of Malthus. So it is the idea that our planet is non-infinite, and we have a growing population, and you cannot use everything. So we need to limit the population. So in the Netherlands approach of circular economy, there is a bit of circular, but there is mostly an idea of changing the population habits. So we could talk about social engineering. At the opposite of the range you have in Germany, where when you speak about circular economy, it's mostly engineering vision of how to do it. So it's technical engineering, how technically to create the circular economy. And in France, it's something in between. So I wanted to stress that the idea of circular economy is not only a technical idea, it's something which is very deeply influenced by the political culture of the countries. And you have a range between something that can be totally purely technical engineering, and at the opposite side of the range, something that could be purely social engineering, and all the positions in between. So just for you to have that in mind, it's important to realize that it's not a purely technical thing. It is something that is quite political in some time. So does the circular economy copy nature? I ask the question because a lot of people assume it does, but and you have everywhere a lot of representations, and like the one where you have here on the picture, where people see, okay, you have a circular system in the industry, you have a circular system in the nature, and you try to emulate and to reproduce the two. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm just going to be a bit critical with the idea of how circular economy is copying nature. Actually, if you look at the flow of energy and materials in the nature, most of the flows start with the light that is going from the sun, and this light is mostly non-used or dissipated into heat, and part of it is created by the plants to make biomass. And then you have the organisms that are eating the plants that create further biomass until all the steps of the chain. But each step of the step, you have a lot of respiration, and you have a lot of wastes, dead material, dead biomass material that is not used and non-recycled, and which is in the black arrows. And this dead biomass material is not recycled and contribute to become part of mineral mass that is increasing. So if I zoom on those and I put that at a different scale, here is planetary scale, you have a representation of the ocean and the continents, and actually they show here the continents and the mountains as an uplift of what is below the sea, and you have erosion, and you have sun, and you have rain, and everything makes the life, and all of these material that are in the mountains or in the continents are used to make biomass, and part of this biomass is going back as again as sedimentation, and will turn very slowly into the crust of the planet that would one day become uplifted again, and it's very slow. So you have indeed a circular thing, but at a geological time. So the very idea of making circular economy is having these circular geological cycles, where you have in the atmosphere and the oceans the biomass that becomes one day limestone or fossil carbon, the carbon that is fossilized, and then we use as petroleum, charcoal, gas, natural gas. And the idea of circular economy is to shortcut that circular cycle that is very, very, very slow. At our scale, at the human scale, this geological circle is not the circle. So we create too much carbon. If we use the carbon, it will not be fossilized again in the lifetime of our lives, or even in the lifetime of our civilization. So the idea of creating a circular economy is to shortcut the black circle and to make it in a blue circle much faster at our scale, at our time scale. So we are not exactly copying nature. We are trying to do better than nature when we speak about circular economy. Just a comment by the way, we have already very circular economies. For example, the wood economy is already extremely circular, because when you produce forestry and timber from the forest, whether it is for wood or for the fiber, once this fiber is in use, it will be used until the end of the life, and then it will be degraded or burned into CO2. But this CO2 will go back to the atmosphere, and will go directly to the plants, because when the forests are growing, they're capturing directly the CO2 into the atmosphere. So if we have a primitive economy based on wood construction and firewood, like we had in the antique times, we are very much into a circular economy. So the idea is to do the same for every material. But before, let's do a bit of theory or understanding the economics of the circular economy. Because we speak about circular economy, so there is economics in it. How does it work? So first, let's imagine a quantity of wood or a quantity of lignocellulosic residues per hectare. Every wood or every biomass that you grow on Earth, when it is about the plants, when you grow plants, is basically a lignocellulosic material, whether it is grass or wood product. So you grow a quantity of lignocellulosic material, and then you create a quantity of lignocellulosic residues. And of course, the more you grow, the more the cost of your supply will increase with the quantity that you will produce per hectare. And the market value will diminish with the residues. So basically, when you produce natural resources, whether it is palm oil or wood, it will work exactly following the same principles. You will have some part of the production a limit where the market value is crossing the cost of the supply. So everything left of this line, vertical line, is profitable. You know, it's Q1, the quantity that you can do. Everything right from this Q1 is residue. Traditionally, all those residue are left to be burned or, in the best case, used as compost. So the principle of the circular economy is to push the line Q1. That vertical line Q1 is to push it. You can push it by increasing the market value. So if you shift the market value and don't change the cost of supply, you will have a Q2 line. So you shift a little bit. So you have more usable material and less waste. Or it is another way to say that a part of the waste has become economical material. So you can also shift that line by that Q2, you can still shift it a bit further on the right by diminishing the marginal cost of supply. So if you diminish the marginal cost of supply, your curve, your Q5 goes there. And then you increase a bit more of the waste that did not waste anymore. They are becoming material that you can use. That's the basic principle of circular economy, is to do this shift as much as possible. Another way to represent that is if you take the example of a tree, for example, but it works for any kind of resource, you would have the valuable product, like the sawn timber, a bit less valuable product, the pulpwood, and then you will have the residues, and you have the similar curves. And what you try to do when you do more circular economy, you shift those market values and those marginal costs of procurement in order to have a bit less of non-valorized residues. So, in other words, you diminish as much as possible what is waste. And from the waste, you make byproducts or products. So another quick vision of biorefinery, because we were speaking of circular economy, and we were speaking of shifting the line of the profitability of the economy of the materials. Basically, what we were describing it's the biorefinery economy. And when people think about biorefinery, usually they think about liquid fuel. People think about fuel when they think about biorefinery. But here, I show you two biorefineries taken in two different countries. One is A, one is B. And I don't know if we can do kind of voting in the room. You will tell me. I would like to know who is able to guess which one is a pulp and paper, factory and which one is a ethanol biorefinery? Do we have people in the room that could try to guess? Do we have a way to have a vote? No return. Okay, so if there is no no vote, actually the A is the biorefinery that is producing bioethanol, and the B is the biorefinery that is producing fiber. Actually, in this case, paper. So you realize that a paper factory and a ethanol factory are exactly the same. There is just one more step. Instead of stopping at the fiber, you go it further and you degrade the complex cellulose into more simple molecules until you can produce the butanol or the ethanol. And when you realize that, you realize that the biorefinery is just a long chain of process, and you can stop anywhere at the chain. You can go very far if you want to make a fuel, or you can stop a bit earlier if you want to make a material. All of this is depending what is your market for whatever stage of the biorefinery process that you have. So how does it work, the economy of this biorefinery, or this, which is the circular economy? So basically you have two components. One is the capex, the capital expenditure. You need to build the factory, and this is the fixed cost. And you have the operational cost, the OPEX, operational expenditures. These are the costs that are proportional to your activity. So the more you do, the more it will be costly, because you have more material. So you need to supply, for example, more raw material. It will cost more. Basically, transport cost is an example of operational expenditure. Actually, it's usually the most important operational expenditure when we are speaking of natural resources like palm oil, fiber, wood, etc. And the capex is something that is big at the beginning, but over the years it gets much less, and especially if you have a lot of tons that you can create. So you can diminish the capex by operating your mill on many years, or your activity, not necessarily your mill, and by having a lot of material. So if you have a lot of material going through the activity, it is less capital expenditure per tons or cubic meter or whatever unit that you are using, like liters. So basically, the cost, if you put it in tons of your capital expenditure, will diminish basically with the capacity, the size of your activity of biorefinery. So the more your biorefinery is taking of material, the more your capital expenditure will diminish. But in the same time, if you need more material, you're going to go farther. You're going to go at increasing concentric circles of distance to get the material to feed your activity of circular economy or biorefinery capacity, if I can say. And that is the OPEX. And the OPEX is increasing with the distance. So it's basically composed of transport cost. And when you put the two costs, you have a production cost of your circular product and your circular molecules or circular materials. And you see that this production cost is like a U-curve. And if you have a product in the market that has a value A, and this value is below the production cost, then you cannot do a circular economy. It's too, your production cost for your circular economy is too expensive compared to the market value or the price that people are ready to pay. But if by chance, or because you design your product that way, you have a higher market value, then your market value, in this case, market value B, may cross the production cost line. And actually it crosses it in two places, the Q1 and the Q2. So you realize that for some capacity, your biorefinery costs are too expensive. If your capacity is too small, if your capacity is too big, your production cost will be also too expensive. So you have an optimal zone which is the domain of profitability for your biorefinery or for your circular economy. This is something very important to have in mind. Biorefinery or circular economy cannot be too small, cannot be too big. It is a physical constraint that you face because you're dealing with natural products. And whether you deal with steel or wood or mining products or whatever the products, you will still have the same shape. Of course, the details will change, the value will change, but the shape of the economy will be exactly the same. So how to make it profitable? One way is to play on the transport cost. Here I did some modeling, and you realize that you have an influence about the capacity of the trucks. And the bigger are your trucks, the cheaper will be your economy of scale. I mean, you will make more economy of scale. And of course, the elevation of where you're doing this. Here you have a map of plantations, and you see that plantations that are on the flat land and plantations on land that are, I say plantation, but it could be, here it's plantations, palm oil plantations, but it could be forest. And whether you put them on the elevation or on the flat land, it will drastically change your possibility for your bioeconomy. So you can look at, here is the map of Peninsular Malaysia, and you can compute how every angle of road will dramatically change the profitability of your transportation of your trucks. And then you can very quickly map, if you want, the real feasibility and profitability of your harvest or your use of materials according to how far you need to go from the mill. And this is according to the size of the mill, of course. Whatever the mill is producing, it could be fuel or it could be materials. So you have works like what we did with our team in Malaysia. You can assess how much of waste or residues or non-used products could be used and make circular. So you can look at all the wastes of so many agricultural products. I go fast. So we did the work for fibers, for palm oil residues, for residues from rubber plantation, and also from paddy plantation. And in this case of oil palm, you see that we could find several steps in the chain where you have significant quantities of material that you can transform into something that is usable. In the case, empty fruit branches, fibers, and shell of the kernels. And for the paddy, you have the husk, the shells of the rice kernel. And also, all of this makes also significant quantities of material that you can use. And then you can produce how much you could use, how much you could economically produce out of those residues for, in this case, 2 colors for Peninsular Malaysia and for Sabah Sarawak, plus the uncertainty of your data, and you can know the million of tons that you can do, and you can zoom. If you remove the palm oil, you can zoom on the other agricultural waste that are significant to produce materials or to produce fuels. In this case, we did compute what we could do as fuels, and you have the examples of how much of the fossil fuel could be replaced by biobutanol or bioethanol that we would use out of many wastes in Peninsular Malaysia, many agricultural waste. So you may ask me how grass or shrubs or wood can produce fuel. Actually, you have already well-known chemical roots from any kind of lignocellulosic biomass, which is wood or grass. You can transform that according several ways. Some pathways are Fischer-Tropsch pathways, so purely physical chemical pathways, and some others are fermentation using bio microorganisms. And some countries are doing that very well already. This is the case of Amazon, where the case of Brazil, where you have in red the map of the sugar cane plantations, and the waste of the sugar cane and the straw and the waste of sugar cane are used to make bioethanol. So you see over the years the green increase, which was the flex fuel, and which is a mix of gasolina and alcohol they were using in their tanks. So this is the ethanol. It's a mix of gasoline and ethanol, and they work those ethanols into many vehicles, from cars to planes to buses and trucks, and they use the residues of the sugar cane, which they create a mulch. This mulch they digest with microorganisms. So Indonesia wanted to do the same actually. So here in Indonesia, you have the old blending mandate and the new blending mandate to make fuel. Two routes are possible. One is biodiesel, using directly palm oil, which is first generation biofuel. The second is using bioethanol, so using waste of lignocellulose. So it's a second generation biofuel. And that's the plan. And the plan is economical because Malaysia used to produce oil, but its production is decreasing, and its consumption and imports are increasing. So it's strategical for Indonesia to create its own biodiesel or biofuel. And you are here in gray the quantities that Indonesia is planning to produce. We are way late. We are very late into the schedule, but that is what Indonesia is proposing to do. And of course, Indonesia has a few plans to make biorefineries in the country. Just to conclude, I would insist on the fact that you have to realize that the petrochemical refinery, which is the black one that you see on the top of this graphic, can be completely replaced by a biorefinery. So you can do all the chains and the same products, the H2, the C1, C2, C3, C4, the molecules with 4 carbon, 5 carbon, 6 carbon, and so on. And you can make biopolymers, you can make fuels, you can make materials, you can make everything actually with the two routes. Today we use polyester every day and plastic every day out of the petrochemical refinery. Actually, we can do technically the same with the biorefinery. The difference being a question of cost, of course. And I give you an example of a German company which we used to make its styrofoam or its out of petrochemicals, and they shifted to biorefinery, and now they make their styrofoam out of waste from natural resources, agricultural resources. So for a country like Indonesia, the challenge is whatever the bio refinery it is using, whatever the circular economy it is refining. Here it is an example using palm oil, but it works for all the bio and the circular economy based on bioproducts. The lower products are the added value of the lower range and the lower added value products are made in Southeast Asia, while the higher products, the molecules, the very extreme advanced molecules and specialty products are refined in Europe, and the added values then is made in Europe. So the challenge for a country like Indonesia is to shift that, and one day to have all the added value, all the steps of the added value made in Southeast Asia. That's the dream of the circular economy in Indonesia. So thank you very much. I hope I was not too fast and clear enough.
That's okay. Thank you very much for Dr. Roda for the good presentation about the circular economy, especially for biomass potential, byproduct potential, especially for Indonesia. This is the very big chance for us to develop more and more. Okay, just for information maybe about the SIRAT, because Mr. Roda not displayed before. So the SIRAT is the French Agricultural Research an organization working for the sustainable development of tropical and Mediterranean region. And for information, this meeting is held by INSIPER International Affairs that collaborate with the CIRAT and Talent. Talent is the Sustainable Landscape Management. This is one kind of program by CIRAT, and with the Kesatuan Pengelola Hutan (KPH) that yesterday you visit directly for the several point or several location in KPH Yogyakarta. So because all of the speaker has already presented, and we will continue for the maybe short discussion because the time is also limited too. So for the discussion, please the questioner can come from the offline or maybe by the online. So the first session we will open for 3 questions maybe. Any question please? Okay. Who Paulis first, and after that maybe from students from Unif of Philip or maybe also from Instipar, please. Maybe first for the Dr. Paulis, time is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity given to me. My name is Paulis Budiastuti from Agriculture Faculty Instipar Yogyakarta. I want to ask to Dr. Markus Hessler, why does the Geography Department study a lot about food or agriculture? Isn't it confused with the Faculty of Agriculture or Agricultural Technology? And the second, I want to ask to Dr. Hasa, does the CDM, Clean Development Mechanism, still have funding from donor countries if developing countries can reduce carbon emission? Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat again my question? Why I'm doing rural research, or what was it?
Okay. Why does the Geography Department in Philip University study a lot about food or agriculture? Isn't it confused with the Faculty of Agriculture or Agriculture Technology? Thank you.
Well, that's geography is a very broad discipline. Yesterday I said geography is what geographers do. You can do in geography, you can do basically anything. And geography is the science of space. And space can be not talking about rocket science, but we're talking about spatial dimensions of anything. Space is a very abstract kind of construct. Geography has 2 main strands. One side is the natural science side, physical geography, and the other one is the human geography, which is the social science side of it. And obviously, I'm a social scientist, and I'm looking at human human interactions and social interactions across different scales, spatial scales, from the local to the global scale. So it might be confusing, but I was talking to Dr. Hasa before. Agricultural science and geography are actually 2 very similar disciplines, very, very broad in scope. In agricultural science, you can do a lot of things as well. I mean, there's a big difference if you look at the social side of agriculture, or at machinery, or fodder production, or soil. You have natural science, you have machinery, you have engineering, you have social aspects to agricultural science. And in geography, same. You can do from geomorphology, which is looking at volcanic aspects, what we are having here at the moment, up to producing food for human beings or rural development. So this is just my personal interpretation of the discipline of geography. That's why I'm doing it.
So I can cover many aspects for the many competence of the study. Is it clear, Mrs. Wallis? Okay, thank you. So the next question. Okay.
So you asked about the CDM, yeah, Clean Development Mechanism. Yes. Still, this is a requirement for the company because of what because the Clean Development Mechanism is a part of commitment to our Kyoto Protocol. That is how we can say that all the countries in the world must to comply with the Kyoto Protocol, even our industry, palm oil industry. Yeah, because you know that in our palm industry, there are so many wastes. There are solid waste, there are liquid waste. If you just put in the field, then the gas will emit to the sky. Then this is a trouble because one of the gas that prohibited for going into the sky freely is methane, CO2. This is why that even though that I said that the infrastructure cost is very high, because it's almost half of the infrastructure cost of the factory, this is a must. And then there are also some additional advantage. When the people sell the product with the sums of the evidence that we do some clean development mechanism, they will get a premium price, even in the Europe, even in the steel. Yeah. This is a must. This is general for all the industry, not only apply to our palm oil industry. Yeah, unfortunately, this palm industry in our country is becoming a big issue in other countries. Yeah. But it's okay. C'est la vie. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's it is still applied. How do we clean this mechanism? By trying to minimize the CO2 into other product gas, like the synthetic gas. We try to converting the carbon into hydrogen, even though there are still some minor constituents of CO2, but we cannot burn directly, just 100 burning system. It will create the CO2. And the industry itself, the biomass industry is a balance. So the inventory, CO2 inventory in the sky, and the CO2 that will be sucked by the plant, it must be balanced. Yeah? This is why that when we are planting so many plants in the forestry or in other area, so we can say that we provide the carbon sink. Okay.
Okay. I think it's enough for the answer for the question. About the environment, this is also a very huge discussion, but maybe later we will discuss more. So continue to the next question, maybe from students, okay? Please mention your name first.
Hello, I'm Elisa from Germany.
Okay.
And my question is, maybe it's for Professor Hassler or maybe also for Professor Rudder. So you said that the global production networks or also the value chain consists of like the input, the transformation, the distribution, and in the end, the retail. So, and my question is, why does it end there? Because when we talk about sustainability or circular economy, then yeah, maybe it should continue after retail. And also, is it like it,
or maybe about the value chain, related about the value chain with the sustainability?
And also, is it a part? Is this thought like after retail? What comes after retail? A thought of the global production network theory.
This is actually a very good question. This is why there's different terminologies. I mean, you're very right in saying it's not the end of a product, and Jean-Marc would agree probably with circular economy. It's not the end of a product. Recycling, whatever, you know. We're talking also, there's a concept called commodity circuits, which actually refers to your thought very much so by saying it's not a chain where consumption is the end. I mean, but there isn't. I mean, looking at whatever, you know, at scrap metal or at clothing, textiles, whatever. I mean, we think we do something good with our textiles when we put them into a recycling box. It's the worst thing we can do. We should burn it. We shouldn't send it to Africa because we basically deposit our rubbish to Africa. So, one recommendation. I always thought the same. I always put it into a recycling box, throw it away into the bin to get it burned. Or get it to a proper shop where it's being sold again. But all other clothes, throw it away. But this is something, you know, even rubbish is something. What we consider rubbish is, I mean, plastic rubbish. 1 ton of plastic rubbish, we recycle plastic in Germany. We think we recycle it, but most of it is being burned in cement factories in Turkey or being brought to Malaysia or wherever. Because 1 ton of plastic has a burn or a thermal value of a ton of heavy oil, probably. So there's life after death. So the circular economy is really what we should think about, and of course, Jean-Marc brought in a new concept here, which is not. I mean, or what Dr. Hasa said, it's remains of, or the rest, something which is not being used for oil, or which is not oil, but the remains of the oil production can be used as well. So there is no rubbish whatsoever. It's all, everything has a value. So the circular economy terminologies are really define a perception of something. So this is why probably we should use a terminology like circuit or circular economy or whatever you call it. Jean-Marc, I was thinking of this, your biofuels with wood. Is it a large scale thing, or what would be the scale of it? I mean, I know we're talking about niches this day in energy production. It cannot be the one kind of solution for everything, because oil is at the moment the one solution for, or has been the one solution for everything. But now we have talking about niches, on spatial as well as technological scales. How far does it make sense to use this wood converter?
Yes, to answer to the question, I must first maybe correct something, because I was fast, and what I did present are the principles of the circular economy, and it was not at all a niche, and I was not focusing only on the biofuel or the liquid fuel. I was trying to explain that both material or fuel are the same, follow the same economic rules. Whether that you use your waste to make energy out of it or to make a material, it's always the same use. So what I wanted, I tried to show is, whatever the product, you have a part that is usable and a part that is considered as a waste. So I did present that with the initial harvesting. You grow something and you harvest, but it works exactly the same with the product that you use. When you are at the end of the use of your product, after the retail was saying the student, it is becoming a waste. So it follows exactly the same economics. And then you realize that for all those bioeconomics, or for all those circular economics, the fundamental criteria is that it has a value which is low. The initial value is low because it is a waste. So you want to recycle it, or you want to use the waste it is low, the value, and in order to use it and to make something out of it, you need to transport it somewhere where you're going to use the product or to reuse it, to recycle it, or to transform the waste into something that you use. That transport is a cost in itself because you use energy to transport, and the energy has a cost. So whatever the solar energy, electricity, whatever the energy, it has a cost. So you, for all your products, whether they are recycled products at the end of the life or whether they are just waste from your agricultural activity, it would be exactly the same. You need to transport low products and which have diminishing values according to the more they are used, the more at the end they are at the cycle, usually the lower is their value. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at the end of the use. They would be still in use as long as it has a value. It's still in use. And when it's not in use anymore, when you want to recycle it, by definition, its value has dropped very low, and you need to transport it. So you are the core of and the heart of the geography there because it is spatial. The heart of the bioeconomy is spatial economy. You have to transport that and you have to compute where it is feasible or not. Now, whatever the product is, you can play with engineering, with new solutions in order to shift the curve, to give values to something that has no value by inventing a solution to give a new life to the product, or by transforming it with a new process, then making something new out of it. So that is the essence of recycling, or the essence of valorizing the biomass. So the ingenuity is there. It's purely engineering and solution that you can find, new designs, new ideas, and that is how you make a bigger share of your non-used product or non-usable product into something that is usable. And that is, once you can do that, you can then compare that to the new value that you create, how far it will go before to be non-profitable again. So again, you are going to use spatial economics. And then going back to the capacity, whatever the capacity, from 1 kilogram to million of tons, it will play because whatever the process that you are using, you will have for one given process, some zone when it is too small where it's not profitable, and some zone when it is too big when it's not profitable anymore because you need to go very far to get the material. So every process that is its ideal scale, and the smaller that you are, the higher in general. But the bigger you are, the lower you are in cost in theory, but the more you need to have some distance to bring all your materials. So you need to compute all of this. Whatever the product that you have, whatever the geography that you have, whatever the country, you have always optimal situations. But the optimal situations of Germany might not be the optimal situation of Indonesia because of the road transportation, because of the economics of the flatland and the hilllands, because of the economic of transportation, because of the weather, because of many factors. I hope it gives a perspective to the question.
Okay, is this
Thank you.
okay? Okay, thank you, Prof. Marcus and Dr. Ruda for the explanation. So it's mean that the key point is the how to manage, and it's mean very complex system. So the collaboration for more aspect is needed, and it's important. So maybe the last question for the first session, maybe from the last side, some students from Instiper maybe have the questions, please. Or maybe from Philip Unif, you can ask one question again. Okay, Wilson.
Okay. Oh, let me take a breath.
Little bit nervous.
Okay. Good afternoon, our guests. Good afternoon, all, and my lecturer, my friends. Okay, sorry. I want to ask about in the German, soybean was the biggest commodity, right, sir? No. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, it's okay.
but I heard the soybean was give given to industry is just 3 and 4%. In the presentation, I saw it. I just think, why so small? Why so? Why just 3 and 4%? It given to industry. Sorry for my bad English. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the question is about the role of soybeans related with the industry project. So please, Prof.
Okay,
Marcus.
thank you for your question. 3 to 4% are for non-food purposes used, which is for cosmetics or energy, or biodiesel, or varnishes paint, for example. It's same like palm oil. Palm oil can be used for a lot of purposes. It's the same basically. It needs to be processed, and palm oil is being used for cosmetics as well. There's for biodiesel. In Indonesia, biosolar is palm oil based. Not only, but or we have in Germany as well some type of petrol which contains palm oil. I think soybean is very useful for animal feed. This is why it is used for feeding animals to a large extent. So it's being processed as well. It's going to industry. 98% of all soybeans are being transformed and processed by industry. Only 2% are actually consumed directly. I think a large share of the production chain, if you want to put it like this, is similar. Only at the very end, the last stages are actually dissimilar, are very specific for foods, to produce tahu, to produce
Tempe.
tempeh,
Yeah.
tempeh, for example, or animal feed or biodiesel.
Animal feed,
Okay.
okay.
Give you another example of geographers. Jean-Marc is a geographer as well, so this is what geography does as well, right? Yeah.
I don't know in Germany's language. Okay, thank you for the last question is asked about the soybean. So maybe little bit different in Indonesia. Soybean is for main food in Indonesia. For produce tempe, it's very delicious food in here. So everybody is like tempe. Okay, every day is tempe. Okay. I will continue the second session, but the time is well limit, and we will continue for the next agenda. So maybe this is all of our discussion in this meeting, and thank you very much for all of the speakers, Prof. Marcus, Dr. Roda, Dr. Harsawardana, and also Dr. Agus Tiarso for the explanation giving to us for today, and hopefully this is very benefit for especially for Insipar University and also Insipar and also the Philip University for the future of the make strengthen the collaboration between us. Okay, I think the next agenda is the any special gift for Prof. Marcus, is the special guest for this today, and for Dr. Roda. Thank you very much that you are already very busy. So thank you very much for this meeting.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I will have to go to the different meeting, but thank you very much again to invite me and to give me the opportunity to share with you these ideas. And I will come back to Instiper physically very soon.
Okay. You will waiting you, Dr. Reda. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Reda. Okay, see you. So the next agenda is the give the special gift for our guest, Prof. Marcus from Univ of Philip. Maybe you can stand up on the front. Okay. And for Dr. Hasawardena, can you can give some yeah. Yeah. Oh, different size. Maybe for photograph you make more center. Udah. Mana? Okay. Very nice gift. Okay, very special. Okay, thank you, Prof. Marcus and Dr. Harsawardana for the change of gift for this meeting. And this is the end of the student course. And thank you for your participation. And I'm sorry if I made mistake during the discussion and also meeting today. So we will continue for the next agenda. And let the Master of Ceremony, Ms. Ama, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fariha. So, ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of the event, Student Discourse on Sustainable Landscape Management. So, we hope you enjoy this moment, and from the depths of my heart, I do apologize for my mistakes in presenting this event. And thank you very much for the collaboration between Instiper, especially Instiper International Affair, with Sirat Talent and KPH Yogyakarta also. Uh, After this event is over, we will visit the educational facility at Instiper Yogyakarta. But before we move to the next agenda, we already provide you all lunch, so please take it and enjoy it in this meeting room. And for you who wants to buy or grab some caffeine or coffee, our barista already stand by over there. So please tell our barista if you need to buy coffee. Okay, thank you and see you again.
Okay, maybe for just not for the student from the Germany and also Instiper, maybe yesterday you get some note, just the several papers. So please collect this note in this afternoon. Is it okay? It's already finished this to write anything about the information. Some note in your bag we shared yesterday in the field. Is it right? Bagus. Not.
Jadi dia yang pengen kopi bisa pesan di kopi shop. Apa ya?
Ya, catatannya yang kemarin. Catatannya yang kemarin itu bukan.
Okay. We need your impressions of